The table saw is a versatile tool that can be used for a myriad of machining procedures. It can also be a very dangerous machine if not used properly. In this video, we will go over some rules and guidelines that will help us to machine safely and successfully. Never pull backwards. The opposing direction of the rotation of the blade and the material feed is what allows safe and controlled machining. If the material were to be fed in the same direction as the blade's rotation, material would be grabbed and shot towards the operator like a projectile. This phenomenon is called kickback. Kickback is violent, happens in the blink of an eye, and incredibly dangerous. If something does go wrong while machining, hold the stock firmly in place, power off the saw, and wait for the blade to come to a complete stop before removing your piece. Blade height. Choosing the correct blade is essential for safety purposes, but the blade height is important as well. In this ripping operation, I've chosen a rip blade. The height of that blade should be set so that the bottom portion of the gullet protrudes just beyond the material being cut. Body positioning. Whenever cutting, we want to try and avoid standing directly behind the stock that we're machining. Standing just to the left of the blade is the ideal position to keep ourselves safe and out of the line of any kickback that may occur. The overhead guard. WorkSafe BC stipulates that the overhead guard must be used in all cutting operations and either a riving knife and or anti-kickback fingers used in ripping operations, and there is a risk of kickback. There are, however, exigent circumstances where the overhead guard or riving knife can be removed. If the desired rip is narrower than 1.25 inches wide, the overhead guard should be removed to allow the push stick to easily pass between the rip fence and the blade. Any ripping operations wider than 1.25 inches should always have the overhead guard in place. The riving knife must be removed during any machining operation where the blade will not pass through the full thickness of material. For example, rebates, dados, and grooves. The use of push sticks. Push sticks are used to keep our hands away from the spinning blades and can be used in a variety of machining operations. We never want our hands closer than 6 inches from the blade, so any stock narrower than 6 inches, a push stick must be used. For machining very thin stock, a narrow push stick may be preferable. Longest edge against the fence, post-cut. This rule is important as it keeps the material being cut stable against either the rip or crosscut fence. If this rule is not observed, the material may become unstable, twist, and kick back. This rule can be tricky as it is the post-cut size that must be considered. If a cut cannot be achieved with the longest edge against the rip fence, a crosscut box should be used that allows a wide range of cuts and is essential in achieving square material. Sheet goods are not manufactured square. The rip fence allows us to achieve parallel cuts, but it is only by holding the material at 90 degrees to the blade by use of the crosscut fence that we can achieve square material. Featherboards. Featherboards are another useful safety aid and can be utilized to hold stock against either the rip fence, table surface, or both. One rule to keep in mind when using a featherboard is to keep pressure in front of the blade. And this will push the stock securely against the fence, adding stability to our machining. Placing the featherboard here instead does nothing except force the material against the blade. Avoiding trapped material. Whenever machining, it is important that we maintain control of the material in between the fence and the blade. The material on the offcut side that is not trapped, we can leave that alone. There's no risk of kickback as there is nothing forcing it into the blade. However, trapping a piece of material like this between the blade and the fence with no control, that material will kick back. To create this cut, instead, what we'll do is clamp a block to the fence using an auxiliary fence so as not to damage the rip fence and a C-clamp. Ensure that the block that we are using is well in front of the blade. That way, when this cut is created, the block is in front of our machining area so as not to trap it and create a kickback hazard. And you can see by utilizing this setup that the piece of stock, once relieved, has ample room to move around. It is not bound and does not kick back at the operator. When we do make use of clamps to either secure a block, guide, or featherboard, it is critical that we use a static C-clamp only. Because of their design, clamps like an F-clamp can vibrate open, making them unsafe for any machining operation. When using the C-clamp, make sure that there are no parts that hang down or impede the cut or hang up on any part of the saw itself. If you're ever unsure, ask for clarity before proceeding.